Reports indicate the Eagles plan to name Parks Frasier as their quarterbacks coach. He spent last season on the staff as the passing game coordinator. Frasier served as Colts interim offensive coordinator during the end of the 2022 season and is a former college quarterback from Murray State. Welcome into an eagle-eye takeover edition of Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL. Along with Rube and Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. Rube, what do you make of this reported hire?
It's a little surprising. They were looking for a quarterbacks coach. They interviewed at least one outside candidate. Usually when that happens, it means the incumbent is not going to be back. In this case, he is. I think it tells you that Jalen Hurts thinks highly of him, because you don't make this move without your quarterback signing off on it. Jalen's had a year around him, a year with him. He wasn't the QB's coach, but he was a guy that was involved certainly in the passing game. So I think it tells you that Jalen's all right with it, that he likes the guy, that he works well with him, and he thinks he's going to help him have a better season. Yeah,
the optics of it, I get, not great. It doesn't mean it's a bad hire, but you're looking at this offense and you say, all right, it needs to get better. Then the guy who is a passing game coordinator is staying on staff, and you see that and you go, well, that's not good enough. But it's really tough to kind of figure out what exactly the passing game coordinator did, how much fault he deserves for what went wrong last year.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to sit here and say, well, they didn't have a great passing game, so it's Parks Frasier's fault. I think it's really oversimplifying things. A lot of people had their hand in it, and it was Nick, it was Jalen, it was Kevin Patullo. There was a lot of people involved. So obviously everybody in the organization is comfortable with him having maybe not an expanded role, but a different role, certainly one that is involved more directly with Jalen. Look, it's an important job, and Jalen has so much potential. We've seen him play so well at times. This past year, the second half of the year, he just wasn't that good. So you need a guy who's going to bring out the best in him and help him have a consistently good year for 17 games and a postseason.
Yeah, so if Parks Frasier is the quarterback's coach, that means Scott Loeffler is no longer their QB coach. Just a couple of months ago, Jalen Hurts had some really positive things to say about Loeffler.
Overall coaching points and the value he's brought, the perspective he's brought. And, I mean, the knowledge of the game, a lot of wisdom in the game. He's coached the best of them. He's been around it. He's called games before. So just his perspective has been very valuable for me. And his process and structured way of thinking has been very influential. So hopefully we can keep him around.
Well, that brings us to our three-point stance presented by Toyota. Stance number one, Jalen Hurts is used to change. This will be his 7th season with the Eagles, already his 6th different quarterback coach, his 7th different play caller. Rube, how do you think he'll handle the changes this time?
And it's not ideal, and he doesn't love the situation. You look at all the quarterback coaches he's been with, all the OCs. It's not ideal, and he's talked about how frustrating it is. He's talked about how envious he's been of the O-linemen who've had one position coach, now 2, but one position coach for 13 years, and how he'd love to have that situation. It's really hard to be consistent when you're under a different coach every year. So it's not ideal for him, but it's something he's got a lot of experience in dealing with.
Yeah, and it's kind of life in the NFL, right? 21 of 32 teams are going to have a new OC this year. There's just constant turnover, and I think the way the Eagles are set up right now, where you have a CEO, head coach, who doesn't run one side of the ball or the other, like they're in this constant cycle where they're going through offensive coordinators. Either that guy gets hired away as a head coach or it doesn't work out and they fire him. So like that's just the product of the situation they're in right now.
So is Sean Mannion more likely to be a head coach next year or fired?
It's a good question.
Well, it's going to be one or the other, because it always is.
Or the whole thing just blows up in their face, which is possible. Not likely, but possible.
Everything's possible with this team.
Yeah, but like I think that the Mannion part is the important part, right? Like I think he's going to be working with Jalen Hurts very closely. I know that he's not the quarterback's coach. That's going to be Parks Frasier, according to the report. But something tells me Sean Mannion, 33-year-old offensive coordinator, former NFL quarterback, former quarterback's coach, like he's going to be involved with Jalen an awful lot.
Yeah, no question. We kind of thought he might be the OC/quarterback's coach. There was reason to believe that might have been the situation. Look, they all have to work together to get the most out of Jalen. and get him back to where he needs to be.
Yeah, but you're right about the experience that Jalen has. I think that matters. Like knowing when a new coach comes in, how to learn from them, what to take from them, kind of seeing through what they do a little bit. I think he's well versed in it. I think that does matter too.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever had this many coaches in their first 7 years. I can't believe he's been in the league 7 years now. This will be 7 years. Seems like they just drafted him, but he doesn't really have a choice. I mean, he's a smart guy. He's open to new things, and every year after year, he gets them.
Yeah, he certainly does. Stance number 2, the Eagles' offensive coaching staff is very unproven. Sean Mannion's a first-time play caller, just 33 years old. They lose Jeff Stoutland as the offensive line coach. Rube, as you look at this staff, how confident are you that these young guys can turn it around?
Yeah, it's a great question. They're very, very young. They have a couple of veterans. I think it was important to keep Singleton and Moorhead to have a couple of veteran guys in there. But, yeah, it's a lot of untested guys, and there's no way to really kind of predict how it's going to work out. I mean, these are guys who don't have a ton of experience in the league and certainly coaching in the league. I mean, you look at Sean Mannion, he was in training camp 2 years ago. So it's a lot to expect from a bunch of young guys. I do like the fact that young guys bring a lot of energy. They bring a lot of new ideas, a lot of fresh approaches, and that's certainly something that this team needs.
Yeah, I think it goes back to Mannion, really. Like we talked about it when they hired him. He's a big swing, but there's a high risk, high reward to a hire like that, right? If it works, great. You look like geniuses. If it fails, yeah, everyone's going to be like, yeah, of course it failed. He has 2 years of coaching experience. So I think there's part of that, but in order to maximize him, you had to let him bring in some of his coaches, and that's what they did.
Yeah, you kind of wish there was like an older veteran guy, maybe a former coach, head coach who was in the mix somewhere. And they could still add a guy, that proverbial senior offensive consultant type.
I thought Greg Olson, not that Greg Olson, the other Greg Olson was going to be that guy.
Yeah, that would have made a lot of sense. And they still might bring in a guy, but as of now, it's a little precarious just how young and inexperienced the staff is.
Let's flip over to defense for stance number 3. The Eagles' defensive line decisions will have a major impact this offseason. There are really 4 key decisions. The first one, Jalen Phillips is an unrestricted free agent. Then both Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter are under contract but eligible for extensions. Both also have the 5th-year options that could be exercised for 2027. Jordan Davis is about to play on his 5th-year option but could also be extended. So, Rube, 4 guys there that we just talked about. How do you think they handle them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you 5th-year option, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith are both guys that have a lot to gain with big years next year, like Jordan Davis did this year. I think they give Jordan Davis a new deal. It's kind of hard to figure his value. I mean, Jordan Davis had a better year than Jalen Carter, so it'll probably make maybe close to half as much as Jalen Carter, just because we know what Jalen Carter's ceiling is. He can be one of the best interior linemen in the league. Jordan Davis is very good, but I think we're looking at $20 million a year for him, where Jalen Carter could be in the 30s, maybe well into the 30s. So Jalen Phillips is the fascinating one for me, because we don't really know what his value is going to be. We see estimates all over the ballpark.
Wide range.
Yeah, up to like close to $30 million, which I just don't see. I just don't think he's that good. I don't think that money would be well spent. But if you can get him for a reasonable deal, I certainly would consider it.
Yeah, and I keep going back to last year with Zach Bond, where they just said, hey, he's the guy we're going to focus on this offseason. We're going to do whatever we have to do to sign that guy, and then we'll fill in the pieces. Part of me wonders if Jalen Phillips could be that type of player.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's missed time with injuries throughout his career. The production hasn't been elite. I think his best season, he had 8.5 sacks, which was his rookie year. His second best season was the next year. He had 7. So he only had a couple sacks after he came over. I thought he played well. Thought he did a lot of things well. But when you're talking about a player making $20-25 million a year, I need more than just 2 sacks in whatever half a season.
If you could only extend one of either Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith this offseason, who are you picking?
I'm going Jordan Davis, because you can 5th-year Nolan and Jalen Carter. I think Jordan Davis means so much to this team, and it's going to be hard to keep all these guys, for the long haul. But I think Jordan Davis means so much to this team. I love where he took his game to this year after his first 3 years, and I think he's only going to get better.
It's time for Stay or Go. Today we wrap up on the defensive side of the ball with the safety position. The Eagles haven't poured many resources into safety, but they'll have one major decision at that position to make this offseason. Reed Blankenship is set to become an unrestricted free agent. He joined the Eagles as an undrafted free agent in 2022 and became a team captain last year. Then their second-round pick, Andrew Makuba, showed some flashes during his rookie season before an injury cut it short. Then there's Marcus Epps, who was a starter during the 2022 season, returned and filled in quite well down the stretch. Don't forget about Sidney Brown, the former third-round pick, has been a force on special teams, has never really been more than that. Rube, let's start with the big one, Reed Blankenship. Set to become a free agent. What would it take to bring him back, and do you think the Eagles get it done?
Yeah, I get the sense, since he hasn't gotten done yet, that there's a difference in opinion on his value between him and his people and the Eagles. Otherwise, I think he'd be under contract. He's a solid guy. He's a good locker room guy. He's a captain. He's around the ball. He's made a lot of interceptions. Remember his first game, picked off Aaron Rodgers. It's like his third snap of his career as an undrafted rookie. I think he's a good player. He's not a star. He's not a superstar, but I don't think he'll get a huge contract. So you think it'd be able to get it done.
You would think so, but I'm kind of with you. It's like, if it's able to, like, why isn't it done?
Why isn't it done?
Yeah, and I don't know how much he wants. So I would think it's going to be in that $6, $7, $8, $9 million range, which isn't super prohibitive. But we already talked about all those extensions that are going to come for the Eagles at some point. You know, if you have to pick him or, an extension for another guy or bring him back a different player, like, maybe you're willing to let him walk.
Yeah, it could be. And we know Howie's got a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball. There's not unlimited funds under the cap. And Blankenship, even with a small contract, could be the victim of that.
Yeah, and maybe they just go, hey, Vic Fangio, who do you need back? Tell us who you absolutely need. And if Vic Fangio says, I need Reed Blankenship back, you bring him back.
And there's a good chance that could happen. Vic loves him some Reed Blankenship.
He does. Really stabilizing force. Even when he's not making plays, I think he really helped this year because he had some moving parts around him. You could at least rely on Reed Blankenship.
Smart guy, good leader, good locker room guy.
Yeah, speaking of those moving parts, how about Andrew Makuba? Did he show you enough last year to think that he can become a high-level starter in the league?
Yeah, I don't know about high level yet. I'm not ready to go quite there, but I like the fact that he got better as the year went on. And he got more consistent. He was a little up and down early. He's a young rookie starting early in his career. But I thought before the injury he had really kind of calmed down and was playing at a pretty high level. I think he's the one guy that is a lock to be a starter next year.
Yeah, Fangio called his season uneven at one point, and I think that was a fair assessment because he was making some big plays, but he was also giving up big plays. There was a boom-bust type of play style, but he really kind of steadied that. By the time he got hurt, he was a pretty solid player, and it was just a shame that he got hurt right when you started to feel that way about him.
Yeah, you're right, and he'll be healthy for OTAs. He thinks he will, so we'll see him fairly soon this spring. But I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. How about Marcus Epps? Cut by the Patriots at the end of training camp. Came back to the Eagles, eventually got on the active roster. How comfortable would you be if they bring him back and maybe you pencil him in as a starter if you can't bring Blankenship back?
Yeah, I think he's a solid guy. He won't cost much. He's kind of a journeyman type of guy. But I thought he was solid down the stretch. Remember they tried Sidney Brown after Makuba got hurt. That didn't go well. And he was the next man in. I thought he should have been the starter right from the jump when Makuba got hurt. He's a smart guy. He's solid. He's durable. He plays a ton of snaps. I thought he was really good, and you can get him cheap. Why not?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, is Reed Blankenship a better player? Yeah, I think we'd all agree. But is Reed Blankenship at $9 million versus Marcus Epps at $1.5 million? Is the difference that big? I don't know.
Yeah, and it might come down to that. And I don't think it's a huge difference between Epps and Blankenship. I think there is a difference, certainly. Reed Blankenship is a better player, but I like the way Epps played. I thought he was pretty consistent last year.
I thought so, too.